All right, Johnny, we're talking changes, and no, I'm not talking about the Tupac Shakur classic changes. I'm talking about coaching changes. And although change can be scary, we're going to highlight a few players that, are going to be exciting as far as what these coaches can do for their offenses.
And what they might bring in 2019 right here on the Fantasy Whispers. We are talking NFL head coaching changes of 2019. We're bringing you the top 4 stories of what we see as the top 4 head coaching positions, as well as we're going to do some rapid fire on some other new head coaches on today's show. Travis, this will be a lot of fun. You and I get to pick each other's brain, throw out some stats, and have some fun right here on the Fantasy Whispers. But first, Travis, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Whisper Nation for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to the podcast or watch the show on YouTube. If you aren't on one of those other platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, make sure you go over there and follow us. Hit that bell on YouTube so you get a notification every time we put a new video up. And you can follow along with the Whisper Nation.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Johnny, as you said, thank you to the Whisper Nation. We spent some time this offseason honing our craft, getting things ready, and we've got an exciting off season of content coming for you. So if you guys aren't subscribed on all these platforms, you are going to miss some things and some key things that we have going out. And listen, before you know it, fantasy football season is going to be here, and you're going to wish that you had this knowledge. So let us drop it on you.
All right. So we're going to start off, Travis, in your little backyard there with our very first coaching change, and that's of the Green Bay Packers hiring Matt LaFluer, previous offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, and then before that, he was the LA Rams offensive coordinator, and then he spent a couple of seasons before that in Atlanta as the quarterback's coach, as well as in Washington as the quarterback's coach. Travis, give us a little bit more of a breakdown of what you see from each position on this Green Bay Packers offense and what you think LaFleur can bring to that offense.
Yeah, so if you're just kind of the casual NFL fan, you're looking at this hiring and you're going, Matt LaFleur, taken from Tennessee, they were not very good. What is going on here? So come with me, if you will, back a year before that, and let's take a look at what he would have been had he not gone to Tennessee. He would have been the hottest coaching hire in the NFL right now because of his direct ties to Sean McVay as the offensive coordinator of the Rams in their resurgent year 2 years ago. And so for me, I was trying to break down these stats, Johnny, and try to look at what we could pick out of the Tennessee stint that he had there. And for me, it's the 9 games where Mariota had 20-plus attempts. And that's because we're not going to have games where Rodgers doesn't have 20-plus attempts. It's just not something that's going to happen. And in those games where Mariota could get to 20-plus attempts, where the offense was clicking, where Mariota was healthy, Derrick Henry, the running back, was an RB8 in PPR formats. We're talking about a guy that's specifically just a standard running back. He was RB8 in those games. So we like that, what we're seeing out of that, if the offense is clicking. And let's face it, the offense in Green Bay is going to be vastly better and more talented than the offense in Tennessee. We can look back at the LA Rams years with Matt LaFleur. We could see that Gurley was an RB1 in PPR under LaFleur. We know he likes single back sets. We've seen it with Devonta Freeman when he was in Atlanta. He was an RB6. We've seen it with Alfred Morris when he was in Washington. Alfred Morris was an RB7 in PPR. So for me, I really like what LaFleur can do for Aaron Jones. You look at Aaron Jones on the Green Bay Packers, the single back sets. I know there's been talk of it being a committee of such, but I really like what I'm going to see out of Jones last year and married with Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, I have my concerns about Matt LaFleur going to the Green Bay Packers. The first one being he is 39 years old. Aaron Rodgers is 35. Aaron has been known to not like the decision-making or play calling by the head coach. And, in fact, he was the main reason why Green Bay Packers got a new head coach. And so if you have a hard time listening to Mike McCarthy and his play calling, I can only imagine Matt LaFleur being 4 years older than Aaron Rodgers and trying to get that play call in. We'll see how that marriage works out. Again, you're going to hear the big ties of Sean McVay. Everyone wants to try to find the new Sean McVay. But for me, Travis, I do have my concerns about this running back position. I'm with you. I think Aaron Jones is the best running back in that backfield, but we've seen time and time again these stories that come out all offseason where LaFleur is looking for more running backs, and that's concerning. Now, that if you can figure out which one's going to be the lead and it looks to be Aaron Jones, I think there's value there for sure. But we'll see where he goes in drafts ultimately to determine if I want a piece of that pie, because he is saying, it's going to be a timeshare, or there were rumors he was looking at Jordan Howard, that they were trying to get a potential big name running back landing in Green Bay, when you and I both know that they just need to give the rock to Aaron Jones a little bit more, and they've got a very good running back there. So I do have my concerns with Matt LaFleur as the play caller. I wasn't exactly impressed last season with what he did. I was expecting a lot more from Marcus Mariota. And, the Derrick Henry, I love the stat that you pulled. I thought it was a very, very good one. But Derrick Henry, it would be interesting because that was such a headache, right? The Dion Lewis, Derrick Henry was such a huge headache. And I don't know if I want a part of that.
I think two things. I think really quickly, what we'll see is more of a Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman situation, if anything, if they can stick with Jones, unless if they were to draft someone. And then the other thing about him and Rodgers, that dynamic, if you look at a lot of what's written online about LaFleur and players that have played with him, they love him.
Yeah.
So if LaFleur can get that relationship actually working more as a peer-to-peer relationship because they are so close in age, I think they could do big things in Green Bay this year.
All right. Now, speaking of big things, Travis, we are going to move on to America's new favorite team, and that is the Cleveland
Johnny's.
Hey, I'm calling it right now. That is the Cleveland Browns hiring Freddie Kitchens as their full-time head coach. You look at what Freddie Kitchens has done over the second part of last season. He took Baker Mayfield, was a rookie starting quarterback, and he allowed him to throw 27 passing touchdowns, which is a rookie record. If you look at the weapons that they're placing around Baker Mayfield, it makes so much sense for the offense that he's trying to run. They just got OBJ. Everyone loves that. They had Landry. They've got Njoku. They went out and got Kareem Hunt. So they're definitely putting the offensive pieces around Baker Mayfield for this offense to succeed. You look at his record before the record of the Browns before he took over. It was 2-5-1, and then he took over. And I say take over because it was kind of a timeshare split between a defensive coordinator did his job, and then the offensive coordinator did his job, and they both kind of ran it. And that resulted in a 5-3 record over the second half of the season. They came this close to making the playoffs. But if you look at the coaching tree, this is the part that I love about Freddie Kitchens, right, Travis? Nick Saban, LSU, he coached under him. Bill Parcells in 2006 under the Dallas Cowboys, coached under him. Kevin Wisenhunt underneath the Arizona Cardinals from 2007 to 2012. And then Bruce Arians from 2013 to 2017. And then I'm just going to leave off the Hugh Jackson one because no one ever likes to be underneath Hugh Jackson or be compared to that coaching staff. But other than that, you take off Hugh Jackson from there, and you're talking about quality offensive coordinators, head coaches that were really, really dominant offensive coordinators. And he's learned underneath those for, over 20 years. So I love Freddie Kitchens as the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And I am declaring it right now, Cleveland Browns are America's new favorite team.
Well, we can get into the disputing of that because we just talked about the Packers, and as a Packers fan, I'd like to think that they're really America's team because God knows it's not Dallas. But either way, I really love what the Browns did here. It was a little bit of we got to go with an offensive mind. He's younger, this kind of thing. Not as young as some of these other hires, but they trusted in what he did with their franchise quarterback. They trusted what their franchise quarterback thought of the man. And if you look at this team from week 9 on, when you're talking about Kitchens taking over the reins as play calling, he had no play calling experience prior to last year, but from week 9 on, you saw the Browns end 2018 as the number 6 team in yards or in plays that went 20-plus yards down the field. 60 plays of that nature last year, and that had to do with Freddie Kitchens. You look at from week 9 on, Baker Mayfield was QB9 in fantasy football, and he had an average depth of target of 9.4 yards. So they are going to throw. And with OBJ, you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to continue to throw. They finally fixed their one weakness on the offense last year, which was receiving help behind Jarvis Landry. Now they put somebody in front of Jarvis Landry. And what's great about, all of this passing is people, we've been getting hit up on Instagram like, what about Chubb with Kareem Hunt and blah, blah, blah. And Chubb. I love Chubb. Yeah. And if people want to draft Kareem Hunt behind him a few rounds and do that and waste it, that's 8 weeks out of the year they're going to be missing a running back. And
do we know when their bye is? Do we know when the Cleveland Browns bye?
I did not know because the schedule has not come out until April.
And that could even be 9 weeks, depending on if they have their bye, 9 through
correct.
13. So
correct. We saw that with Mark Ingram a little bit last year. Mm-hmm. So with Chubb, though, I loved him last year. In those 9 weeks that Freddie Kitchens was the man, Chubb was RB6 in PPR. You cannot beat that kind of talent. And listen, we talk about, oh my God, all these weapons. If you're going to tell me that OBJ isn't going to help Chubb, you're an idiot. And I'm not trying to talk a bunch of smack here, but literally when you have a good offense like that, look at Kansas City. When you get more opportunity, better things happen. And opportunity is paramount in fantasy football.
I totally agree. And speaking of opportunity, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers seeing a slight window of opportunity last season with Bruce Arians coming out to the public saying that, I want the Cleveland Browns position, head coaching position. Well, we know he didn't get that, but Tampa Bay took that opportunity to say, hey, we really liked what Bruce Arians did down in Arizona. Let's try to see if he can, he is known as the quarterback whisperer. Let's see if he can whisper into Jameis Winston's ear and possibly turn his career around. So they bring in Bruce Arians. They had to give a pick to the Arizona Cardinals because he was still technically under contract until 2019. So they just end up swapping picks, a 6th and a 7th rounder with Tampa Bay. Bruce Arians actually is familiar with Jameis Winston, right? He coached Jameis Winston in a high school training camp back when Winston was in 9th grade. So you like that they already have that chemistry. And Travis, I'm going to give some big stats here on why everyone should instantly upgrade Mike Evans. Now, I know that Chris Godwin is the guy that everyone's talking about in the fantasy community, and rightfully so. I think that he's a guy that's going to be a sleeper that you're going to be able to get in later rounds, that he's going to have a lot of value for you. He's going to be a wide receiver, too, on some weeks, and mostly I feel like that's how it will be for him. But Mike Evans, Travis, if you look at Larry Fitzgerald's stats, right, since Bruce Arians had taken over, he did not have a single year under 100 targets. And if those first couple of years were really rocky underneath the quarterback situation there in the offensive line. He had Carson Palmer. But you look at the last 3 seasons he had with Bruce Arians, Larry Fitzgerald had with Bruce Arians, and he went over 1,000 yards receiving on each of those years, and he had a handful of touchdowns in each season. So for me, I am trying to get Mike Evans on whatever team that I can get. I think that he is being undervalued at the wide receiver spot, and Bruce Arians loves to air out the ball.
Yeah, I would have just loved to see Humphrey stay in this offense. I just think that there's so much here to be taken. And it's, the biggest thing for me in this hiring is the running back position. Yep. And right now, I don't feel confident in either of the guys they got on the roster. You talk about Peyton Barber, you talk about Ronald Jones II, you talk about these guys that are just not very good. Can Arians either work magic on those guys, or are they going to draft somebody? There's plenty of guys, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about it in the next couple of weeks as the draft gets closer. There are guys I've been sending Johnny DMs lately of guys that are in this rookie class that I think can blow the top off. There's just a lot of them and a lot of unknowns with these guys. If they draft some of these guys like a Darrell Henderson or like like a Josh Jacobs, like some of these guys that are in this draft class, we could be looking at a really, really good fantasy star, because there were weeks that Peyton Barber gave you RB2 numbers in a very bad offensive situation. You bring Bruce Arians there, I think that's good. As far as the man Bruce Arians, I mean, nobody's doing it better as far as he hires women on the staff. This is the guy you want to bring in.
Two of them.
Yeah. This is the guy you want to bring in if you're trying to fix a troubled quarterback. And you look at his experience with Peyton Manning, with Andrew Luck, with Ben Roethlisberger. This guy has, with the guys in Arizona, with Carson Palmer. I think that there is nobody better, and I think the Tampa Bay may have had the hire of the offseason here. I think they probably got it right the most here, because they need to either figure out what Jameis is doing, fix him, or kick him down the road, and no better guy to make that assessment than Bruce Arians.
I absolutely agree. And when you refer to the running back position, this is a situation I'm monitoring very, very closely, because I know that Peyton Barber wasn't the best running back last season, Travis, but I have watched Bruce Arians pretty closely, and he has the ability to make whatever running back he has fantasy relevant. He is a bell cow type of running back. I mean, heck, Andre Ellington was a beast of a running back a few years ago for one season, and he's not even that good, but it's because Bruce Arians knows how to get his guys in space. And you look at what Peyton Barber had last year as far as targets. He only had 27. He did catch 20 of them, so that is an ability that he has coming out of the backfield. So Peyton Barber could actually become a value in the draft if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't try to pick up one of those running backs in the draft. But I do think that they ultimately do end up going that way.
Yes, please draft
right.
her.
Yeah, we're all hoping that. All right, we're going to move on to the next coaching change. Big topic here, and that is the Arizona Cardinals selecting Kliff Kingsbury, the former offensive coordinator for 2 weeks of the USC Trojans, more formally known for his time at Texas Tech, his alma mater. Travis, do you want to jump in here first and give your little rundown, and then I'm going to go off on my rant, maybe surprise you a little bit with some of this breakdown of my version of what I think about Kliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, so I know you're going to have a little bit of more of the hard-hitting stats. I want to just kind of talk about philosophy with Kliff Kingsbury. We know he's going to run this air raid offense, and a lot of people are going air raid. And it reminds me of when RPO came out and people were just talking RPO. Tony Romo saying RPO. I know what an RPO is.
Dude, commentators could not get enough of that. It was so irritating. Classic RPO here.
Yeah, exactly. But air raid is that new trigger word, that new, hot word that's coming out there. And it reminds me of the Madden run and gun.
Yeah. Yep.
Remember run and gun, the run and gun playbook you'd have in Madden? This is what it reminds me of. It's going to be a lot of RPOs. It's going to be a lot of getting guys in space, throwing to the backside of the backfield, and Johnny can probably break down some of those stats as well. We know he had success throwing to the running back, so David Johnson is hopefully going to make that turnaround, and he could be a value this year, similar to what Gurley was a couple years ago when McVay took over. People were hesitant because of what had happened the year before. So for me, I love the David Johnson relationship here. On the other side of the ball, we talk about why he was fired at Texas Tech, and I really think it has to do more with the defense. They were not a good defensive squad in his time there. And so what does he do? He takes an ex-head coach in Vance Joseph, hires him on his coaching staff, similar to Sean McVay. I know that's the hot item and the lazy narrative, so to speak, to compare him to Sean McVay. But what did McVay do? He hired a veteran head coach or ex-head coach to run his defense, say, you're going to be the man. You're going to be the head coach of our defense. I'm going to go run the offense. And so I think these are very smart moves that Kliff's done already, and I'm really looking forward to those paying off.
Yeah, I mean, like, that was like the whole big thing and the Nammer, right, with Kliff Kingsbury is he was friends with Sean McVay, so he's got to be like the same guy, yeah, right? So it's, he texted him, "Hey, how's it going?" And all of a sudden he's got the magic of Sean McVay.
He got ghosted by Sean McVay.
So I have to say, with this Kliff Kingsbury signing, I as a Cardinals fan am very, very excited. But even from a fantasy standpoint, I'm very excited because what Kliff Kingsbury can bring to this offense, which was the worst in the league last year, is consistency and make reads easy, right? And we'll talk about Josh Rosen first here, Travis, because Josh Rosen is currently the quarterback. Josh Rosen, going back and watching some of his game tape of last season, yes, everyone knows about the offensive line issue. Everyone knows about the wide receivers. Everyone knows about the offensive coordinator issues. All of those are true facts. But what is Josh Rosen? He's not perfect, right? So when I looked at Josh Rosen, the thing that he was consistently doing wrong was he was late on his reads. Like, there would be guys open, and he should have just, all right, throw it. Done, check it down or whatever. Instead, he was holding on to the ball a little bit too long, or he was throwing behind receivers, things like that, which he wasn't really showing signs of in college. We saw signs of last year. So it shows that he wasn't confident in the playbook. He wasn't confident in the coaching staff. He was questioning himself on play calls. So he needs to correct that in order to become a much better fantasy quarterback and a better quarterback in the NFL. When you look at his line of work compared to the other rookie quarterbacks, Travis, other than Baker Mayfield, who was the outlier, he really isn't that much different. Their stats are very, very comparable. He was only 600 passing yards below Sam Darnold. He was, had the roughly same amount of interceptions as Josh Allen and Sam Darnold. They all were relatively the same. So it's hard to say, like, everyone's pointing to Josh Rosen saying, oh, he's a terrible quarterback. But when you look at the stats, like the completion percentage, even they're all in the 50s, mid 50s. So they're all, but you don't see Buffalo saying, "Oh, we need a new quarterback," or you don't see the Giant or the Jets saying, "Oh, we need a new quarterback." They're fine with their quarterback. All of a sudden, because the Cardinals have the number 1 pick, they're saying, "Oh, they need a new quarterback." Now, with that being said,
well, it's a perfect storm, though, right, Johnny?
Right.
It's a storm of. Murray is the guy that is the potential number 1 pick. Right. We know what Kliff has said about Murray, and Murray fits that system very well.
And as I start, in the very beginning, I was completely off of the Murray to the Cardinals bandwagon. I did not want it at all. Now, with that being said, and after what I've seen the Cardinals do over the last few weeks, I am starting to actually believe that they will, in fact, select Murray as the number 1 pick. I am crossing my fingers with all my fandom that they can somehow get some kind of first-round return, whether that's from Miami, whether that's from the Broncos, the Giants, or New England Patriots at the end of the first round. I'm hoping we can get some kind of first-round value for him back. I would be okay with that because we have so many holes that at any one of those picks that any of those teams have, we can get a very nice starting option that we, to fill in. There's so many holes in this offense. So I'm now okay with it. And as I start to look at where Kliff Kingsbury is as a coach, his main downfall, everyone wants to talk about he was 35-40 in college. How do you expect him to come into the NFL and actually win in the NFL? Well, again, if you look at his offenses, Travis, he scored 35 points or more in 4 out of his 6 seasons in college. He was in charge of the offense there. You like what he did. He turned Case Keenum from, a terrible quarterback. He threw like 2,000 yards his first season.
One of the best college quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
Case Keenum.
Yeah. So, he turned him around. And then his claim to fame is Mahomes. So Kliff Kingsbury has the ability to turn all these quarterbacks into and fit his offensive system. With that said, dude, Murray fits this like a glove. He's wanted Murray, and his downside in college was he was not a good recruiter. Now all of a sudden you don't have to recruit. You just go out and pick them, and they play for you. So with that being said, I think that this could be his first opportunity to say, you know what, I've wanted this kid for so long. Please just give me this opportunity to take this quarterback, and I promise you, you will not regret it. And I could do a lot more with him than I can with Josh Rosen. I think you can still get the job done with Josh Rosen, but I agree, and I'm starting to come around with you and everybody else that Murray fits this offensive scheme like a glove. He can run. He can throw the ball with the flick of his wrist 50 yards down the field. I really think that if they get Murray, it will be more exciting for this offense.
Well, the Cardinals may regret taking Murray, but may not regret taking Murray, but I'm going to regret letting you talk about Kliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals because we
went over by a minute, so I apologize on that. So
no worries.
We're down
Let's
to our
these quick hitters.
Rapid reaction, Travis, on these guys. So we're going to start with the Miami Dolphins. Brian Flores signs with them. He was the defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. Now going down to Miami. What do you think of this pick, Travis?
Biggest thing here is that Flores could be the first guy coming from Belichick that actually fits the Belichick mold. He was a scout as well, so we like that connection there. He's defensive based just like Belichick. He hired Chad O'Shea as his offensive coordinator. That is the guy responsible for Edelman's success for the most part in the league.
For me, it just comes down to Bill Belichick is 12-6 against his disciples. He now plays him twice a year, so I'm not super confident in that pick. Next, we're going to go
Wilson for fantasy is a guy like Devontae Parker as well, wide receivers.
Yes, I like
especially
that.
Especially with Fitzpatrick coming.
Yep. All right, Cincinnati Bengals, Zach Taylor, they hired from he was the defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos. Comes over.
No.
Sorry.
Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor was the QB coach for the Rams.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. QB coach for the Rams. What do you think he can implement over here for the Cincinnati Bengals, who struggled on offense last year?
Well, I like to see what he's going to do with Dalton. Dalton's still a little young, so we could see him actually either try and do 1 year with Dalton and see what happens there. A.J. Green getting up in age, but I really love this marriage for Joe Mixon. How are they going to continue to use him in the passing game and up his pass-catching abilities even more than what they were last year?
All right, we're going to go to the New York Jets, this could have been another big topic we could have talked about, because I do like this Adam Gase signing, Travis. I think it could be a really good hire for them. He did some really good things down in Miami with less than stellar cast at the quarterback position. As you know, Ryan Tannehill was consistently injured. They let him go this offseason because of it. He gets upgrades at the running back position because Bell signed with there. He also goes out and signs Jamison Crowder to play the slot. They have Robbie Anderson. I like the positions that he's put in that offense in the New York area.
Sleeper of the year, Chris Herndon is another guy I'm looking at right there at the tight end position. Loving that. Gase was actually endorsed by Manning. Manning called the Jets and told them, you got to hire this guy for Darnold. I think that's great. We're looking at him.
What a reference, right?
Yeah. He's not a Mike McCoy who is living on Manning's coattails. Manning is actually giving Gase props here. So like that.
All right. And then the last coaching position we're going to talk about is Vic Fangio, Denver Broncos head coach. This is what, more importantly for me, Travis, that I'm looking at. They hired Rick. I'm going to mess up this. Scangarillo. No, that's way bad.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, he's now the offensive coordinator. If you go back in time, he was the quarterback's coach for the 49ers, where he has done wonders for Jimmy Garoppolo, C.J. Beathard, Brian Hoyer, and Nick Mullins. He took that position, and they ranked 10th in passing yards per game over the last 2 seasons. And as you can tell, Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't played that much over the last 2 seasons, so he's really done wonders. So I really like what he's going to bring to the table now with Joe Flacco as his starting quarterback.
Yeah, the Broncos zig when everybody zags here and is hiring the young offensive minds. They hire an older defensive mind because they know they've won a Super Bowl by focusing on the defense and letting the offense kind of tag along. My only concern here is Fangio's lack of allegiance to running back Philip Lindsay. And because they spent the high draft capital on Freeman, how much are they going to have to do a split here or want to do a split here? So that is something to watch. Let's see how it progresses into training camp, into the preseason.
All right. That's all for our coaching changes and breakdowns. I want to know, and Travis wants to know, what Whisper Nation thinks will be the most beneficial fantasy football player to come off of these new coaching changes. Let us know. Or what team. Let us know what team you think made the best coaching hire. We want to hear from you, Whisper Nation. All right, until next time, that is Big Travy. I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks. Please, again, make sure you go over and check out our YouTube. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit the little bell so you get a notification anytime we go and press new videos.
And as always, if you are not following us on Twitter, or Instagram, or Facebook, please do so. We've got all sorts of content on those platforms as well. That's Johnny Game Time Hicks. I'm Big Travy, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.